your camera. Welcome. It's May 15th, 2019 at 2 p.m. It's a Wednesday, and it's cannabis legalization news. If you are joining us for the first time, please do ask a comment, and we'll try to get to them as we are doing this. And if you want, you can like and subscribe. Hey, Miggy, what's things going on over there with you?
Well, besides dropping my phone, that's why I'm shiny.
Really? It's like an aura thing where you have your back lit and it just looks like you're very, very shiny.
But maybe some sort of dramatic effect. I don't know. But we're adjourned for 2019 here, and so we have two bills, HB 1131 and SB 5155, that we are hoping going to be active for 2020. That's going to be part of the home grow.
That's interesting. So once you guys adjourn in Washington State, we are right now. If you are watching, you can go on Facebook or something, and you can watch the testimony that's going on at SB 7 right now, the Illinois Senate, and it is entertaining. Plant the seed, say no to weed. Did you hear that one?
No.
Yeah. Plant the seed, everybody. Say no to weed. I mean, it was funny. And then some other people were talking about how cannabis is the gateway to the criminal justice system. Yeah, kind of is.
Yeah. That's a great point. What's up with the recreational or home grow issue for you guys, though?
Well, that's it. I mean, like right now they are debating it. And so like it's going on right now in the Senate, and it is all about what's going down for the terms of the actual grow itself, and then also the other stuff that's going on in the bill that they have. So one of the things that they may do is they may drop home grow in Illinois, or at least limit it to medical patients only. Which, I mean, I'm not what. Why in Washington State do they not have home grow, in your opinion?
Well, obviously, medical is a threat to the industrial complex, I guess you could say, or the capitalistic
powers that be.
But what we had before, what's actually going on in Oklahoma right now, was the essential
weed.
Huh?
Oklahoma, it's like the Wild West of medical marijuana.
Oh well, that's how Washington used to be. It was a true free market where people grew the shit. They brought it to a store and they said, "Hey, I grew these 10 pounds. Would you buy this?" And then that person, quality over quantity,
Yeah. If you want to hear Wild West when it's like I grew these 10 pounds, I mean, Illinois, the hemp market, the CBD hemp market is going to be that, and it already is that right now, especially considering the legality change that happened with the 2018 Farm Bill. So CBD hemp is growing fast.
Well, I mean, we talked last week about how I told you that South Africa had hemp, and you weren't aware of that, and China hemp. Well, did you know Patagonia is getting into the mix?
I thought Patagonia, or is that Cartagena? Isn't that just a made-up name, Patagonia? That's a brand of like outdoor apparel, right?
Yeah, it's a brand of outdoor apparel. But they're actually I'm gonna post it here in our YouTube links, comments. They have a YouTube video all about hemp. So they're going to have a whole line of hemp. There might be a 2-hour viewing in my area tonight that I'm going to try and attend about hemp and changing the way and how we view things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, that's absolutely great, and I hope that they have that. But the phone calls for hemp are amazing, and the business that hemp has got is really, really rich in the future, and it looks like it's going to grow substantially faster than previously anticipated, in the sense that, as people are using CBD, they actually notice that it works, and then they aren't really all that thrilled with Xanax and opioid painkillers. So that efficacy of this stuff is really fueling a boom of its purchase. But then you just kind of have to wonder, what is the FDA going to do here in a couple of weeks? And they're still in the public comment period, so you can go to the USDA website and make comments about hemp policy. I'm not sure when that comment period ends, but the rules aren't due until the end of the year. So it's going to be fascinating to see in 2 weeks episode, the episode of Cannabis Legalization News, right around the turn of this month, on the 31st. It's not a Wednesday, so maybe the one after that. What does the FDA want to do when it comes to CBD products, specifically like your isolates and whatnot? That's That's going to be really, really fascinating. But
Sure.
it looks like that New York's getting back into the game, though.
Yeah, they're kind of coming in and out. Somebody, Lamar said, I think they want to control. And this is pertaining to why the home grow not wanting it. I think they want to control how much bud is available. When the prices drop low enough, the cigarette companies will start selling packs of joints. But to counter that, you can grow your own tobacco. You can order Amazon tobacco plants right now and grow them in your backyard.
Well, you can grow your own hemp. I mean, like, you do need to get a license, but it's not that hard to get that license now with the farm bill how it is. And so I think Illinois is over 600 right now licenses. Think about that. Think about that. That is going to be a lot of acreage in Illinois growing hemp this year. It's going to be fantastic. Weirdest thing in the world, though, like, Illinois still has not planted its corn. So, like, we are way behind because of all the flooding that we've had.
Yeah, that's just a harsh weather you guys going through. But along with the increase of hemp, I mean, we know hemp is great for CBD products, but the textile purposes, like with Patagonia jumping into this, and as we now are facing the China tariffs, I'm just thinking my weed up here is going to go up in price, my recreational weed, just for the price of the goddamn packaging, because half these fucking assholes buy China packaging because it's cheaper.
Yeah, and China packaging. I mean, like, there's some CBD products that are on the market that aren't particularly great, and you aren't really sure where they come from. But a lot of the CBD hemp is grown in China, and then maybe that's the stuff that winds up as those, like, little gummies that are laced with melatonin or other imperfections and impurities. So it's really sweet that there are some awesome providers of the CBD products that are out there, and they really take pride in them. So they have a nice brand that they've developed. And as these growers are out there making this product that doesn't have the limitations that THC cannabis does, and it looks like it has a lot of upside. I mean, if you're just looking at it's for pain and for anxiety. And then there's what about, like, CBD for performance enhancement? What do you think about that?
I think that's a great thing. I mean, lots of athletes, even
Like the PGA, man, those golfers were all about it. And then it's because for its anxiety and its anti-anxiety properties, I mean, you just are less nervous. I mean, it just drops. It's really, really spooky. I mean, stuff that previously may have made you, like, kind of jump. Now you're just like, oh, there that goes. It's neat. Have you ever tried, like, real high quality hemp or CBD?
not just well, I've smoked pure CBD and I've smoked CBD isolate, and I like to put that in my my rig, whatever I'm smoking with.
Mm-hmm.
It adds to the body effect. We even have a CBD joint here. Of course, it has THC in it because it's in the 502 market, but it's a joint made from CBD flower, maybe a Charlotte's Web. Then it's dipped into a CBD wax. So it's a super CBD joint.
I mean, people know about it. It's an option. And I think that as it becomes more and more mainstream over the next few years, and then also as the producers and then the industry kind of comes up to par with where the supply will be, I think that's when you're really going to see a lot more of the industrial applications. Not this year, maybe not as much next year, but in a few more years, like with Levi's and Patagonia, as you say, they're actually looking at it as a textile, which it can do.
Yeah. Hey, we got a comment from I gotta find the fucking page again. From Cypress TK. He posted a link, which is it's an Illinois survey that supposedly shows support for legalizing marijuana is dwindling. Actually shows it's rising.
Oh, it's that. That's what it is. It's that classic. Hey, we need a headline, and that headline has to match our agenda. So no matter what happens, we always say the headline that matches our agenda. And this isn't all that different than like, you can have science say anything. So I've read studies that say this. Were those studies funded by you? Maybe.
And wow, this is so frustrating. So as I go through that article, I skim through it. That data, that argument is being provided by Sam, Kevin Sabat's group.
The smart approaches for marijuana. They are unbiased and very fair.
It just bothers me that why? Because they get government subsidies from the goddamn DEA. Where's the pro subsidy group? Where's that money at?
The pro subsidy group. I think the pro subsidy group is like, no. We're getting enough of from Uncle Sugar. We don't need any more subsidy money. I have always met those people. Like, the panhandler that gets enough for the day. just puts his
Yeah.
bucket down, takes his money, and enjoys the rest of his day. People never they have so much of a difficult time saying like, well, you know what, I got enough. That's I'm
Well,
good, man. I got enough.
well, like you and Kevin Sabat's, I just wonder, what do you guys do for a real job? Like, none of these people could ever have a real job if they weren't being subsidized to the goddamn government.
Oh man, there's so many people that what is a real job, man? Like seriously, what is a real job? And so many people, yeah, I don't think they could be entrepreneurs. They can be employees, but they can't be entrepreneurs because they need order and structure in their lives, and they need, oh man, at least I have that good job. That's a legitimate thing. Like, oh man, at least I have this, where it's security and it's safety. And then then you have people that are fraud, waste, and abuse. I mean, sure, you're going to have free riders. You're going to have people that are going to just abuse the system, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a system at all. It means that you make the system as effective as you can. Speaking of, New York State has reintroduced the bill to legalize and regulate tax marijuana. I'm not sure how much different it is from the one. It's the same senator, though. It's Liz Krueger out in New York. Let's go over briefly. How familiar are you with the New York legalization bill that got voted down, or I'm not even sure if it got up to a vote? It kind of collapsed on itself this legislative season.
I'm not, because it's kind of wearing down just to hear these politics of, like here in Washington State, the Democrats are the stopping point for our home grow bill, and I just don't get. I thought the Democrats are supposed to be the social justice, goddamn, common sense group.
Yeah, and it's not like, and the home grows, like New York State here is 6 plants, Colorado is 6 plants, Illinois is 5 plants. It might be only 5 plants for medical patients, but does that dent the price at the dispensary down the street? Do you think the dispensary is reflecting that 1% perhaps of the people that actually want to grow marijuana as like a hobby are impacting the price? What is the actual pushback from Democrats over in Washington State? I figure law enforcement is going to try to push back against it, because law enforcement, by and large, just puts back against any attempt to legalize, except for Leap. We'll talk about Leap later. I haven't heard from them in a while.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard from those guys in a while, but I just think the home grow issue, between hiding behind we're afraid that we do legalize home growth and the federal government will come and interrupt our market, which at this point the 7-year experiment's way past due. We can we can let people now grow, because growing's hard. Like
I said, it's going to be a hobby. It's going to be people that want to do it, and it's not going to be a lot of people. I mean, I'm pretty sure the price of the tomatoes over at the grocery store didn't go down because I can grow tomatoes during the growing season in Illinois. It's just ridiculous.
And did you hear about, what was it, North Dakota, who quietly decriminalized?
Yeah, I did. Was it North or was it South Dakota that quietly decriminalized? That's the problem with having Dakotas and Carolinas. You can get them confused.
For real?
Yeah.
I'm looking right at
things like Americans, they get confused by Washington, D.C. or the state. I don't know. And that's why I'll do it myself. Be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Washington. The state.
Yeah, no, it was North Dakota.
Yeah. North Dakota. Well, North Dakota is cooler than South Dakota, at least when it comes to their cannabis laws. But let's do a brief summary of the New York bill that lost.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be 2 ounces, which is not bad. 2 ounces is okay. I still think it's hilarious they have limitations. It's not like I can go buy only some of the alcohol. I can buy all the alcohol I want until I have no liver. Home cultivation of 16 plants. Smoking in public. Nope, they're going to have a violation for public consumption, but that makes sense. I mean, public consumption, it's not like every place is New Orleans. You're not just going to be taking a traveler of alcohol wherever you go. Sale prohibited to people less than 21. Yep, same type of thing. And then to be able to have the state liquor authority is going to be managing the taxes. I like how that makes sense. And they're going to be doing some social equity and social, they call it social equity here in Illinois. Directs a portion of state tax revenue to collected directly to reentry programs, substance abuse programs, and job training programs to low income, high unemployment communities. So it looks like it's fairly similar. I would have to drill into the cultivation, applications and licensing requirements, and then the different types of permits that they would have in it. But it looks like New York is similar to Illinois in that it's calling for limits. Then there's going to be home grow, and then there's also going to be social equity. I'm not sure. I don't think the state liquor commission in Illinois is going to be the one touching the monies. That's going to be the treasurer.
It kind of bothers me how they divert extra money to these. There should be programs for those who've been arrested previously, but this whole I bet you they divert money to the Department of Health as far as warning labels for cannabis. Marijuana, warning teens and shit like that.
Well, yeah, but they're going to do that. That's just going to happen. I mean, I can get mad at it. I can fight against it. And be like, why can't I make my marijuana logo look like a cartoon and flavor all my marijuana like it's Fruity Pebbles? I'm trying to get the youngest cannabis user I can. I mean, they're just going to have reasonable regulations, and that's the reasonable regulation. I mean, there is, despite Herb Rosenfeld, you know who that guy is, right?
Yep.
World record joint smoker. Despite him still being alive after being, attempted to be poisoned, I guess, off of exceedingly low THC cannabis over the past 6 years now, he has no lung cancer, and he smoked over 100,000 joints that are limited at 3.5% THC. I'm not sure what the CBD content is on those joints either. Maybe there ain't none. But we can't classify everything that you light on fire and inhale as the same substance. That is just the same type of groupthink that got us into the marijuana is heroin classification at the federal law.
Well, and even the consumer still has a lot to learn because we're so focused on this THC, CBD, but no one's talking about terpenes or CBG. I mean, there's other components to this plant that all factor into it.
Yeah, well, it looks like New Jersey, they aren't going to be touching the marijuana issue until at least 2020. And I guess that makes sense because then you're going to have, when you have an election year and every single one of the Democrats has made this on their platform, legalize marijuana, and the states are kind of faltering at it when it comes to legislative states. All the states that have already passed, they're all ballot initiative states, and not all the states are like ballot initiatives. So it makes sense, though, that if something doesn't pass in 19, you put it in 2020 because it's going to be the marijuana market will just be larger next year, and then B, it's a presidential election year, so there's going to be more public involvement at the political level.
Huh. Hey, Joshua Morgan wants to know if you know anything about Indiana.
Oh, Indiana is going to be one of the last states that legalizes marijuana. I'll guarantee that.
Well, even in the news, I can't find anything that's beyond 420 news.
I don't even think they have medical over in Indiana because if you look at Illinois's got this beautiful setup where you have, because while Kentucky has hemp and Mitch McConnell, I still don't see Kentucky even legalizing marijuana in the foreseeable future.
Oh, I say nay on that one. I say nay because I just found an article that over 55% of the GOP people in Kentucky are pro-cannabis.
Well, I mean, again, if that one goes, it'll be the story of hemp swinging the tail on that state, because you have a Republican state, but then they've seen hemp just explode in their state over the past 4 years. Which, I mean, you know the difference between a hemp plant and a marijuana plant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for the leaf and stalk and all that crap.
It looks the goddamn same because it is, but it's just that chemical. And maybe a slight smell difference. I think that I'm not sure if THC has a smell. Hey, does THC have a smell?
No, it's the terpenes we smell.
It's the terpenes. Well, maybe the terpene profiles are slightly different between the THC and the CBD then. That is, but that's all that fascinating stuff. We would have to get an Israeli scientist on here to explain that to us.
Oh, man, I would love to meet that guy.
We should have him on the show. We should have somebody on the show from Indiana and be like, excuse me, sir, you're from Indiana? And it'd be Mike Pence. And he's like, yes, I am. And when are you going to have legalized marijuana? No, that's just the whole answer. But Mnuchin says that marijuana businesses should not get a federal tax credit. which I guess kind of does make sense, because why would you give a federal benefit to somebody who is committing, like, violations of your criminal laws?
That, that whole thing's frustrating.
Well, he's in the executive. He's not allowed to make laws. He can't make a legislative change. So, of course, I'm sure they're still paying their taxes, probably in cash, and that the United States government is still taking the tax dollars from the cannabis businesses, and they're making it, through IRC 280E. You're familiar with that?
We got
Internal Revenue Code, Section 280E.
Oh yeah, the one that you can't. No rights
for the carrying on of your business. You can do the cost of goods sold because they were worried about a constitutional challenge. But this 1980s cocaine dealer had a really good lawyer, and he got popped. And so the feds took all his money, and they said, well, you can't. Those are business expenses. You see, he was selling that cocaine, but God damn it, that rent, the phone bills that he had, all those baggies, the scales, everything that he needed to carry on his business, the sign that says Sal's Cocaine Universe. I mean, probably not the best thing that he should have bought with his money, but still. So all those expenses, plus the cost of goods sold, you just can't go into business selling cocaine unless you got cocaine. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it'll be a very short business. All of those costs of goods sold should be deducted, and they were allowed to be. And so the next year, Congress passed IRC 280E, and the rest is history. So that's why you have all these cannabis businesses using sophisticated accountant advisory services to minimize their exposure to the inability to deduct the costs of carrying on your business, like employees, rent, all those other things that would be nice to deduct,
Oh, sure. Electricity, travel costs, and all the other stuff.
All of that stuff.
Well, I got a question for you because you're more government savvy than I am. The governor, do they have like the presidential power, but just for their state?
Let me understand what you're saying. Is the governor basically like the president of the state?
Yeah, because the reason why I'm asking is instead of going through all the rigmarole that we're doing for home grow, couldn't our governor just say, okay, how many done? He can't legislate.
Right.
Okay, but so he can only approve.
He can enforce. So he might say, like, I'm telling the state police to not enforce our cannabis cultivation felonies unless there are more than 5 plants.
Okay.
And effectively, he kind of did it.
Yeah.
You hear about that in the state, Illinois. Illinois, there's some pushback as to the legalization of marijuana that had the auto expungement. Did you hear that one from this week?
No.
All right. So the Illinois law goes further than any other law, even further than New York's. It appears in the nation to call for criminal justice reform through the legalization of marijuana. And one of the aspects of the law is this automatic expungement that then directs the state to go and find all the qualified felons or other convicts, and if they're eligible to have the auto expunge them. Which do you have state's attorneys in your office, or do you have district attorneys? And by office, I mean state, Washington.
District.
All right. See, we have state's attorneys here. It's essentially the same thing. They're the prosecutors in the state. It just as a naming convention. So our state's attorneys all wrote this letter to the Congress, the legislature, that says you can't do that. That's a separation of powers issue. You're not allowed to legislate the domain of the executive to grant pardons.
Wow.
Right, but it's still it's J.B. Pritzker's baby. It was in his 9-page summary that he released, and he had that press conference 10 days ago on. And so let's say that it's unconstitutional, and they're going to put it in there. Okay, great, strike it, and then Pritzker can do it anyway, right? Because he'd say, I am going to pardon all these people. Go do it. And so if they have to bifurcate the law, great. But he's already said that's in his platform, and that's what he wants to do with the law. So why just can't he do it himself?
Yeah, it seems a little like a waste of time. The law enforcement seem to be able to do that, right? I mean,
I'm not sure if you've ever met lawyers or like been involved in litigation. The chief expert in litigation is often a waste of time. And that is what you get to sell. And that's why you get to be paid handsomely, because you have given that person more time.
I get you. We got a question from Engineering Cannabis. They ask, how would you advise individuals of the minority group get into cannabis? And, you know, it's with any group, really. First off, depending on your state, because each one has a different infrastructure of how they have business, and then funding, and also what do you do in your regular job? Because I think all jobs are kind of, they can cross over. In any sort of field that you do professionally in your regular job, you can do in the cannabis field. So, you know, can't really narrow down that question, because even though it's the minority, it's hard sometimes for us, like in Wisconsin or Idaho, but in Seattle, Washington, and Portland, we have a pretty much just an equal level playing field, but it's all about funding.
I understand, but like they actually put this in Illinois, and like because you're Miguel Santiago, I'm assuming that your ancestors were Irish and Dutch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, in Illinois, they are actually providing in the rubric, because Illinois will take applications to allow companies to be licensed and come online into the adult cannabis marketplace, so that it's not only going to the existing players already. And as they come into the cannabis marketplace, they have to do an application to the state, which is then scored on a scale of 0 to 200. Actually 212, because there's 12 possible bonus points that are in the law itself. And so 25, I believe, I'd have to review I'm kind of on the fence and waiting to see what the bill is actually passed at, and then I'll review it, so I don't want to like learn something and be like, oh, I didn't make it in. I just have to forget it then. But 25%, I'm sorry, 25 points out of the 200 are going to these social equity applicants. So the people that are minorities and that have been negatively impacted by the drug war are encouraged to come to the table and join these business ventures, because a cannabis dispensary or a craft cultivation center, these aren't cheap industries. I mean, you need to buy security, you need to buy edifice, you need to have employees, you need to have insurance product, you need to have a business plan. You should put together an LLC or whatever business venture that you want to structure it as. Probably most will be LLCs, but we'll see. And then you can put together the team, as they call it in startups. And so that team will help you score a perfect score and become one of the craft cultivation centers or one of the new cannabis processor license or cannabis dispensary licenses. So in that respect, at least in Illinois and perhaps in other states going forward, provided that Illinois passes it, there will be more opportunities for both minorities and also people that were impacted by the drug war negatively to get involved in the new legal cannabis market.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think your guys' implementation of that would be great if it happens, for a first state to do that. I just think right now it's just such a rigmarole of, even in the legal states, they are fighting amongst the police and the people trying to create the laws, the structures. In Michigan, this retired officer who used to be in charge of the now disbarred Laura, who were in charge of cannabis.
I can't remember what Laura stands for, but the firm I used to work out of, headquartered in Royal Oak, Michigan. So if I would have stayed there, I would have been more involved in Michigan's legalization. But Laura, Lara, is the regulatory board through the state of Michigan that I believe helps set rules. And Michigan's legalization, Michigan's adult use market it's meh.
Well, it's not so much, for me, it's bad enough being a minority, but if you're in the business, people actively of all race, color, creed are fighting these assholes. Like it's just a constant. I know more people who've lost money, took all their life investment, thinking, okay, this is my retirement now. I'm going to invest in this and be a business, and then they have to relocate because of zoning practices or the state didn't approve them when they thought they were. There's just so many hurdles to go through right now that they all should implement what you guys are doing, I think, to create that even playing field. But until then, I just see it being a bloody murder in each state until they actually come to those actual laws, the
Well,
rules.
business is crooked. I mean, business, when it comes down to it, all business is the oil industry. Did you see that shit on Boeing today that came out?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
self. Yeah, yeah. We didn't think that part was important. The whole
You didn't think that
emergency.
was important, did you? Oh man! Oh, for the people that didn't hear it, so Boeing knew that problem with their 735 Air Max was a problem, and the pilots were yelling at them about it months before or weeks, because there wasn't that much span of time between the two fatal crashes, which God forbid, and we're very fortunate that they didn't occur in America. But man, that would have really eviscerated Boeing stock if it would have happened in America, and just by happenstance didn't. But that's company. That's business. Business knows that they've done something wrong. I mean, like, I can't talk about stuff, but I can say, like, yeah, you can talk in parables and stories. Remember that there was this one time that me and the general counsel of Wells Fargo agreed on something, and I had explained this to a possible client about what they were talking about. And the general counsel for Wells Fargo is pretty fucking smart, and he's the CEO now. Didn't matter. So I didn't. I was like, oh, I can't give you that opinion. Somebody else might. So just because one lawyer says something doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen in the end. And so you're making money hand over fist right now. Why are you going to stop just because there's a problem? But that's business. And so I don't have any problem with regulations, because you have people that will self-deal and take everything, and they don't care. Well, if you aren't going to say it, will you tell me a lawyer who will? Oh, sure. I can make a referral.
Well, and that's a problem with law too. My friend who's serving time, Lance Glore, that we spoke about before.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to get a shirt when I go out there to see you in August.
Yeah.
But yeah, the drug war is not over until Lance Galore is free, and a lot of other people just like Lance Galore.
And seriously, he tried to do all the right moves in a legal medical state. He got a lawyer with a lawyer's advice on how to create this infrastructure. He owned 3 businesses. He's in jail right now for what people are doing now. There's a chain here called Have a Heart. They have, I think, like 6 here in Washington State and 2 in California. I mean, you have fucking chains now. It makes no sense.
So like, the only difference between him being one of these entrepreneurs that's doing that now and being in jail is time. Just the timing was wrong.
Well, the timing of Washington State, because at the time when he was, there was a rogue police group called WestNet here in Washington State. It comprised of local Washington authorities, the DEA, and also a military branch, because it's in that area where there's a base up here, military base. Mm-hmm. So, all about intel. It's all about, raids. And so what happened was Washington State couldn't get Lance Glore on anything. He was doing everything right. And so what Washington State did was they collected evidence by getting a medical script, by going to the store and buying product like a patient would, and then taking that stuff and handing it over to DEA. And once the DEA received it, they were like, well, this is a federal issue now. And so they didn't abide by state's law. So
yeah, like in litigation, and like as I get more and more cannabis clients, and they become more and more of a business lawyer, as a business / transactional advisor, counselor type attorney, helping with contracts and transactions, as opposed to being a litigator who's enforcing those contracts and transactions in courts of law and using discovery and all that type of stuff and evidence and fact finding. But I've seen, I did that for the first 10 years of my practice for banks, and I've seen people like I'm involved in one of the cases right now. They just make evidence. They fabricate evidence. And it sounds like there was no difference in fabricating evidence, because I don't do criminal, but that was a criminal thing that happened to Lance Glore. And it sounds like, they do it in civil law and they do it in criminal law. So let's talk about something happier.
Yeah, man.
Have you heard that he's at it again? The king of hemp in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, has made an extra effort to include that industrial hemp farmers qualify for federal crop insurance. And he's trying to insert language right now into a disaster spending bill to clear up that issue. That is big.
Well, what about that crop insurance I sent you? Did you follow up on that one?
I sent it to me again, and I will also follow up on it some more. But a lot of it's like limited to hail damage. A lot of it's severely limited, and so there are people that are trying to get in, not necessarily just for the federal crop insurance, because that looks like it's an expiring window in the sense that you have Mitch McConnell in the Senate working for it, and all the other legal farm subsidy. I'm sorry, all the other legal ag commodities, which hemp is now joining the ranks of, are able to qualify for this federal crop insurance, which is very important. And so once that's in there, that crop insurance aspect will go out the window. And yeah, sure, for the past 4 years, there's probably been some insurers. I'm not sure if they paid out any claims. I have some real bargain basement health insurance myself, and let me tell you, I'm pretty sure the name of the insurance company is "We don't pay that claim."
Right, that's the whole point of the game, right?
Yeah. Well, just deny everything. And then, ask it in writing. So like right there, you have like 50% of the claims that just never pay out. What a deal. Anyway, so that would be huge. Putting that in, and then this is from a couple of days ago. So it is really, really fresh. But yeah, Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue is trying to finalize requirements by hemp for the 2020 season, which is great. But if Mitch McConnell can open up hemp for the 2019 season, that'll help, especially considering there is a learning curve that goes on with hemp as people figure out. The farmers will understand how to farm it. It'll just take them like a year, and then they'll experiment, they'll learn it, and then they can scale out. And then the other issues are like general liability insurance and other type of insurance products that you could get if you're just a farmer. But if you're trying to deal with the underwriting aspects, and they say, well, what are you doing? Oh, we're farming cannabis. Technically, though, it is just hemp, so it's okay, right? There's probably some insurance product that's out there that the hemp clients should look into to protect themselves. I just don't know how good those those insurance companies are. If you need them, did you just pay for a premium that doesn't get you any return?
So if this whatever McConnell bill is trying to push through for the insurance purposes, would that also make hemp farms eligible for, like, say, like now during this tariff war bullshit, and Trump's trying to fucking pay the farmers because he fucked up? Will they be eligible?
Yeah, well, maybe. Sometimes because he did a small thing earlier, and by he I mean Trump did that a couple $10 to $12 billion previously to help them out, and maybe there'll be something else like that. It's just that the acreage when it comes to hemp is so small when it comes to like corn and soy.
Big Batman says, I believe if Trump legalized cannabis fairly, he would be guaranteed another 4 years, and I honestly think he would too.
Yeah, I think he'd get another four. Trump might get another 4 years. That's the thing you guys need to kind of be scared about. He may, but I don't think that just from how slow every state that has a legislature, and by the way, the federal government is just a big legislature. There ain't no fucking ballot initiatives when it comes to the U.S. Congress. And so just because the states have taken this long to go to adult use to where they're at now all the states that have ballot initiatives are done legalizing, and all the states that have legislatures like Washington, D.C., not one of them has legalized it. And so I don't think that the federal government is closer to legalizing marijuana right now, and I don't think that they would legalize it if Trump gets another 4 years, and he might, unless that there is a recession. And like right now, he's just basically, bitch slapping around with China and hurting people and farmers, and the economy's fine. Like Alibaba just crushed their numbers, and so there might not be a recession until like 2021, and that means that Trump's going to win again, which could really, maybe it'll set marijuana legalization back on a nationwide level, or maybe marijuana legalization on a nationwide level still is 4 or 5 years away.
Or it might expedite it because everybody just needs to smoke more because he's fucking president.
Yeah, if we get it just might become almost like a who gives a shit thing. If we get the Safe Banking Act to pass, if that has passed, and cannabis can be banked, then I think it'll go a lot quicker because then you're going to have all that money consolidate and be able to move like it's just any other industry. And if you suddenly have this industry that's worth $15 billion plus, there's that concomitant growth with it when it comes to industrial hemp. So those two industries together, lobbying for full legalization and having the money to do it and like checking accounts and stuff like that, then I think you're going to get to a point where it may actually change over. But I still think that you're going to need to have Illinois, maybe even Florida, all the Rust Belt states. So Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. Once all those states are also legalized, and maybe like a Texas or something, because it's still us versus them. I mean, the them is still, oh, those goddamn social liberals that smoke their marijuana. What the f is wrong with them?
Yeah, no, it's definitely divisive, and I don't think it is so much, but the media and everything else that we pay attention to kind of leads us that way, you know.
So you working on any cool articles now that the legislation session's over?
Yeah, I'm working on a letter to Governor Jay Inslee about the waste in our for one, the China tariff, how it's kind of highlighting everything, right? Because vape cartridges, the cheap ones, are bought in China. Packaging, bought in China. Can you imagine if they just made a law where your packaging is required to be hemp, then it'd be biodegradable? So
what if they made the requirement that your packaging has to be hemp grown in America?
Exactly. So I mean that's one thing I'm working on, and then I just got done publishing yesterday. Billy Ray Cyrus had a video where he's a little nug.
Wait, let me hear this right. I've heard Billy Ray Cyrus is a little nug. Flesh that out a little bit for us, will you?
Billy Ray Cyrus, he just released a video 4 days ago where it's all marijuana. It's all little nugs, little nug characters. Yeah.
All right, let me Google. Does he have like a catchy hook? I mean, I'll Google it and see if I can screen share this.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I put it in the YouTube comments, but and it's got some dad jokes in the middle. It's pretty funny.
All right, well, hang on a second. Let me just do that. Give me a second. I'll just go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to scroll down to this one. There might be some minor. Who cares? It's a live broadcast, right?
There you go.
All right. The new Billy Ray Cyrus video. Oh, good. He's made weed uncool. Thank God. Yeah. Let's see here. It's this. Oh, good. That's just great. Can you believe that? It's stop motion marijuana.
So the animator for
that, everything.
There's a group called the Nug Nation. That's who makes that.
Nug Nation. Nation. So these guys are kind of like the California raisins of cannabis.
Yeah, pretty much. But you know what was neat about this video is they have a little couple Easter eggs. One was the cartoonist put in his name in a trash can, but another one, the little nug flies into a hemp field, and it's actually a real hemp place. So I just posted a link for that location, Salt Creek Hemp. You know, I think American hemp,
huh? Yeah, there's a lot of small hemp companies that are on the internet now, and small hemp farms that are selling directly to consumers, and that's really cool. I mean, I'm glad that there's all this disbursement of the industry, and so like there's all these companies that are growing this CBD hemp, and then they have their brand that they have their marketing campaign that they have. A lot of them do online retail through their own websites and their own social media marketing. I mean, it is legitimately an industry.
Yeah,
even though it's really young. I mean, like the industry, legit, is less than 4 years old, which is great because I mean, like think about how big the marijuana industries have grown in the 20 plus years since California went medical.
Yeah, I mean, there's been leaps and bounds from the outlaws and underground, handshakes with the surprise to walking into a store.
Right. And then, well, with hemp, though, they were able to kind of skip that. But the growth of the industry, I think, is similar. And there's only been 4 years of that hemp industry. So it'll be really, really interesting to see hemp in another 10, 20 years. And it would still be a fairly young industry. It'd only be 25 years old.
I just think more focus on a textile will be its best attribute coming up.
Cool, man.
And then,
all right, well, there's back again. Like, I need to get back to doing some more of the federal laws. Most of the federal laws that are there are ones that were there last time. I mean, Schumer just reintroduced his bill, and so I'll probably be doing additional federal ones on that. And then, depending on what Illinois does, I'm going to be doing a lot of content on Illinois' legislation, which may become law, which may become kind of like a framework for other states. Because we've seen all the states that can do it through a ballot initiative. Now, how can the rest of the states, and maybe with Florida might be the next one that can still do it with the ballot initiative, because they were able to do theirs with the ballot initiative for medical marijuana. Maybe they could go back and do a ballot initiative for adult use marijuana. The problem, well, think about Florida setting up. I mean, the felons are now able to vote, or the ex-felons. They've already paid their debt, so that prohibition against them getting their voting rights back, that could bring an extra million voters to Florida.
Damn. Tourism is a huge thing no matter what. When people underestimate the cannabis tourist element.
They absolutely do. And then again, so you have an extra million people. And then they had that thing where the first time, I mean, did you see, they had 2 votes on Florida medical marijuana. Did you see, are you familiar with the Florida medical marijuana legislation that happened?
Well, the first time, did they miss it by like a 1% or something low?
But they have to get like 60% of the vote, which is amazing. So like 60%, and it took them 2 tries. It might take Florida another 5-10 years, who knows, to get another 60%. So then these other states that have to go through the legislative process, they may have to look to Illinois, because when you're going through the legislative process, then you don't just have the people going to the polls and saying yes or no. You have to have all these special interests coming together, and everybody wants to wet their beak.
Yeah, goddamn lobbyists. Recently, the Ocasio-Cortez, she talked about how easy these lobbyists. It's not so much them showing up and funneling money to people. It's more like, hey, let's all come to this vineyard and come enjoy this weekend here, while we ply you with all the key words to say when people talk about healthcare or whatnot.
Yep. Well, I mean, like branding, PR, all that stuff. Why do you think we call it adult use now? Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Recreational. Oh, yeah. You just want to sit around and smoke weed. Well, no. I'm an adult who uses marijuana. That doesn't mean that I'm. And then even Cheech and Chong, they're still touring, man. It's not like they were lazy.
Man, they're not dead.
No. And Willie Nelson in Cannabis Legalization News is still putting out albums, evidently. I hear he just put out one like this month.
He's on tour. He's coming to my town next week, I believe.
No shit, Willie Nelson's on tour?
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot.
Yep. So, It is. Let's see here. He does. He's present. Do we have like his discography? What has he put out most recently? Oh, there it is. Ride Me Back Home by Willie Nelson, out 2019. The guy is 86. Still going. So, like, all of their platitudes are just such bullshit.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate. But hey, on that note, I do have to get back to work.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful day. I'm going to actually mow my lawn. I haven't done that in a while. And then after that, I'll get back to work myself. Anyway, great talking with you. I'll see you next week. And if you haven't liked and subscribed, well, you can still do that. I'll talk to you guys later.